Melanie Singer broke down on the stand as she recalled having seen Officer Powell beat Rodney King in the head with his baton. Officer Powell was also the officer who was accused of laughing when he called for an ambulance. He is also the one who wrote a computer message saying, "I haven't beaten anyone this badly in a long time." And Officer Kuhn, Sergeant Kuhn, spent 3 days on the stand. He was unapologetic for the beating at all. He said that every single blow and kick was justified, reasonable, and necessary. And he said that this was just what they were trained to do. They were only doing their jobs. Obviously, the jury didn't buy that argument this time, as the jury did in Simi Valley. Bob?
Now, Officer Brasino testified in state court against his fellow officers. He did not testify in this trial, but the jury did see his testimony on video. Obviously, that must have had an impact on the jury.
Well, it was a very dramatic moment in court. The defense attorneys fought hard to keep that prior testimony out of the courtroom. But in his testimony in Simi Valley, Officer Brasino said that he thought that the other officers were out of control, that he thought that the beating had gone too far. And this was something that the defense attorneys did not want this jury to hear. But at the insistence of the prosecution and a final decision by the judge, a videotape of Brasino's prior testimony was played here in the courtroom, and this jury was allowed to hear that testimony. It must have made a great impact on them, as well as the 61 witnesses and the 6 weeks of evidence that was presented to them. They had a very weighty decision to make, and they have now been deliberating for a full week, a few hours longer than the jury deliberated in Simi Valley, and they have come to this conclusion. We just have to wait to see how this is going to play in the city of Los Angeles. That's the biggest question left to answer now.
Has the judge indicated when he intends to pass sentence on the two officers who were found guilty, Bill? And as I understand it, a maximum 10 years in prison and what, $250,000 in fines?
Well, of course, Bob, they can appeal. And I'm sure that the attorneys and the defendants will appeal as quickly as possible. The judge has some latitude here. He can sentence them, or he can allow them to go home during the appeal. This is something we have to wait to hear. This is not clear at this moment.
All right, thank you very much, Bill Whitaker. We want to go now to Bill Lagatuda, who is watching developments in Los Angeles outside the courtroom. And clearly, the Los Angeles police went on what, alert at 6 o'clock this morning? Am I correct in that, Bill?
That's correct, Bob. A full mobilization, meaning there may be up to 6,500 police officers on the streets during the various shifts today. This city is remarkably quiet. I say remarkably because usually there are a number of homicides and a lot of violence on a Friday overnight. There has been almost none, only one killing in the city overnight, perhaps because of all the police presence. Around the city this morning, the vans carrying the sequestered jurors arrived at the federal courthouse under heavy guard this morning. Police department is on full mobilization as of now. This is one of the LAPD staging areas this morning. The new chief here promised a massive show of force on the streets, up to 3/4 of the entire force on duty. He promised that is a dramatic difference from last year. They say they're prepared for just about anything. We'll have to see.
Bill,
I'm sorry, Bob.
It is rather unusual for a judge to send a jury home more or less at mid-afternoon as he did yesterday. Was that part of the security precautions to announce this verdict early in the day once that the jury had reached its verdict?
I think so. There's been a great deal of talk about advanced planning here. The police department and the city wanted very much to have an indication of when the verdict would come in so they could call their officers back on duty. We don't know at this point whether there was any communication between the court and the police department, but we do know that having a strong sense that a verdict was due, the police began rolling out overnight and then went up to full mobilization this morning.
Anyone who's ever covered a trial or been to a courthouse knows you can never guess a jury, but was this more or less how many people thought this was going to come out, with the supervisor and the man seen on the tape doing most of the beating being found guilty, and perhaps the others having a better chance to escape any penalty here, Bill?
Well, talking to people in various parts of the city, and bear in mind Los Angeles is hardly a typical city. It's more like many cities joined together. And when you talk to a lot of people on the streets in the past few days, they've been saying that if anyone is to be found guilty, they certainly expected perhaps Kuhn and Powell to be convicted and perhaps the others to be acquitted if that were to be the case. But few people really, I think, at least the ones I spoke to, expected unanimous verdicts of guilty against all of the officers. No one was expecting that, and in fact, it didn't happen today.
We are hearing some sirens behind you, Bill. I know it would be too much to ask you standing there. I assume you're atop that building there to know what's going on, but can you make anything out of what is happening there?
This is mid-city Los Angeles where we are. We're in the Fairfax district, if you know Los Angeles, and that's looks like an ambulance and a police car. I don't know that it means anything in particular. As I said, this has become a rather violent place in the past few years. The good news was that it was rather calm here, remarkably calm overnight. I really don't know if that means anything or not. The hours ahead are the ones to watch.
All right, Bill Lagatuda, I know this has been a long watch for you, this trial in progress for what, 6 weeks, and then the jury deliberating for over a week now. To recap, the supervisor of the Los Angeles police who were involved in the beating of Rodney King has been found guilty. The actual charge, failure to prevent an unlawful assault. He could get up to 10 years in federal prison and a possible $250,000 fine. Officer Lawrence Powell, the officer who was seen so much on that videotape beating Rodney King, he has been guilty of using unreasonable force, another federal charge. Timothy Wind, who was the rookie on the force, has since left the force, was found not guilty. And Officer Theodore Brasino, the officer who testified against the other officers in the state trial last year, also found not guilty. So that's it, the latest on the trial in Los Angeles, this trial that has been going on for over 6 weeks now, the trial that followed the state trial in which the officers were acquitted. That trial, of course, led to the riots in Los Angeles last year in which 53 people were killed. We'll be watching this situation all day today, and we'll have a complete wrap-up and any late developments tonight on the CBS Evening News. I'm Bob Schieffer in New York. Good day.
Again, what each of those means. Sergeant Stacy Kuhn, he was the supervising officer at the scene in Lakeview Terrace. His charge, basically, putting it in everyday language instead of legalese, is that he allowed at least one of the officers under his command to violate Rodney King's civil rights. Officer Lawrence Powell, convicted. A willful intent to violate King's civil rights under color of authority, basically knowing that what he was doing was wrong and continuing to do it anyway. Timothy Wind, a former officer fired by Chief Darrell Gates. He was a probationary officer in the first 6 months of his tour with the LAPD. Again, intending to violate King's civil rights under color of authority, not guilty. Not guilty as well for Theodore Brasino. His was the same charge as Wind and Powell. So 2 convictions and 2 acquittals in this celebrated case that ended in Simi Valley. Last year, just about a year ago, with acquittals across the board. Let's go now to Susan Lichtman, our reporter live in the Koreatown area of Los Angeles. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, Chris. Koreatown is waking up this morning, I believe, with a collective sigh of relief. We have been here at the California market at 5th and Western. As you can see behind me, was boarded up yesterday. This market has been preparing for the worst, like everyone, hoping for the best, though. And the people that we spoke to this morning certainly seem pleased with what came down.
It was like almost as I expected, but I don't know about Stacy Kuhn. I think he should get not guilty. He didn't really actually involved in beating the Rodney King, but the Powell, I think he's supposed to get guilty.
Well, I think justice has been served finally. I just, hope everybody just stay calm and, there's nothing left to burn. I just feel that way. I'm just glad for Rodney King.
I just heard about it. I think it is fair, yeah.
What do you think will happen in the city now?
I think riot is not happen.
You think the city will be able now to move ahead and get on with things, get on with life?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you believe justice has been served? Back in Koreatown, I will tell you that since we have been here this morning and we did drive around Koreatown before we set up this shot here at the California market, there is massive police presence in this part of the city. In addition to about 50 officers that were assigned just to Koreatown, there were an additional 100 that were put on in the past several days. They first started patrolling the area in groups of 50, about 12 to 14 cars, all in single file line with a real show of force throughout the area. And then they broke up into smaller groups, single cars, canvassing the entire area. What they have done is they have gone store to store. They have talked to all the store owners. They are concerned, of course, that the Korean American community is armed, and they wanted to press the point home that, look, we are the police. We are here to protect you. We will use any weapons if there needs to be any. Please stay at home. Please stay inside and let us do our job. And they seem to really have assured the Korean American community. I will say that speaking to the Korean American community over the past couple of weeks, in the beginning there was a tremendous amount of anticipation. Protect our lives and our property and our family, no matter what happens, and if anyone comes in here, there's going to be trouble. In the past several days, we have spoken to the Korean Watch Team, which is on nightly patrols looking for any kind of criminal activity, the Korean Young Adults of Los Angeles, and their tone has completely changed. They were much calmer. They seem to be reassured by the police. The Korean Consul General spoke with Mayor Tom Bradley 2 days ago, and he was assured by the mayor that Los Angeles is prepared for anything. That Mayor Bradley said the city has never been prepared for any event as it is for this. And so the Korean Consul General seemed pretty confident when he came out of that half-hour meeting with the mayor. We know that the Korean American leaders did meet with the National Guard, and they seem calm by that. So looking at Koreatown today, this morning, they are waking up, traffic is moving, and it appears to be business as usual. And you can almost feel the tension level just kind of go down as the verdicts were read, that they feel justice has been done. They feel that the city will now be quiet and they can get on with their lives. I'm Susan Lichten reporting from Koreatown. Chris, back to you.
All right, Susan, thank you very much. Let's very quickly go back up to Rod Burnson in the Fox
Roger.
helicopter. You up there, Rod?
Yeah, good morning, Chris. Helicopter traffic remains mainly the news media. We just had a report of a helicopter coming in from the south, and it said it was intending to land at the federal building. Now, there's two federal buildings here, the older building, and then, of course, the Roybal building behind us, which you're looking at now. That's the only one with a heliport on top. So we're going to stand by and see if a helicopter does come in, and if that's, in fact, how they move either the defendants or the jurors out of the Roybal building.
All right, Rod Burnson, thank you very much. Let's go down to the library at the Roybal Federal Building, where a live news conference is about to be held with at least some of the participants in this trial.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Terry Bowers, and I am the United States Attorney for the Central District of California. First, I would like to make introductions. Then we will have 3 brief statements, and after that, we'll take some of your questions. This is Charlie Parsons, who is the special agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation here in the Central District of California. James Turner, who is the acting head of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. And of course, I'm sure by now you all know the prosecutors in the case: Lawrence Middleton, Steve Clymer, Barry Kowalski, and Alan Teeger. As you know by now, today a federal jury returned a guilty verdict against defendant Lawrence Powell on charges of willfully and intentionally using unreasonable force during the arrest of Rodney King on March 3rd, 1991. The unreasonable use of force was a deprivation of Rodney King's constitutional right. The jury today also convicted defendant Stacy C. Kuhn of violating Rodney King's constitutional right by willfully permitting and failing to take action to stop the unlawful assault by defendant Powell, who was under Kuhn's supervision at the time. As you also know, the jury acquitted defendants Wynn and Briseno. First and foremost, I want to commend the outstanding team that prepared and presented this case. This is one of the most formidable prosecution teams ever assembled and serves as an excellent model of cooperation between a local United States Attorney's Office and the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. By coordinating our efforts, we were able to give this case the full and complete attention it required and it deserved.
Did excellent work to see that justice was done, and the jury has got to be thanked for the sacrifices that they have made during these last weeks. Their work reflects the strength and the greatness of the jury system in America. The Department of Justice is going to do everything it can to continue to bring prosecutions to ensure that the civil rights of all citizens throughout America are protected. I want to join with citizens, with local officials, with people who care, and with the hundreds and thousands of sensitive, caring police officers around this nation to do whatever we can to help heal the wounds which have been inflicted on Los Angeles and to create a spirit of mutual trust in communities throughout America. Let's work together to channel the frustration that so many feel into addressing the problems that Los Angeles and communities throughout America face by ensuring equal opportunity for all citizens, by giving our children an opportunity to grow in a safe, constructive environment, and by working together rather than against each other to build a stronger, better nation and a government that reflects and represents all America. Questions?
Have you spoken to President Clinton today, and any reaction from him?
No, I have not spoken to the President. I've spoken to the White House.
And what is their reaction?
Their reaction is satisfaction, a deep satisfaction that justice has been done.
Jesse Jackson wants the President to go to Los Angeles to assure the people out there. Are there any plans for the President or senior cabinet people to go to Los Angeles now?
You'd have to check with the White House.
How about you?
What I hope to do is, I have been on the other end of the line when federal officials come into a community. Sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. I want to work with local leaders and citizens in Los Angeles, with people who understand what's needed in Los Angeles, to do everything I can to address the long-range problems for the future, to ensure equal opportunity, to